Welcome back again. You're still watching us here on The Daily Debate. I'm very much delighted to have joining me in the studio this evening Dr. Abdel Wahab Ghoneim, Vice Chairman of the Arab Federation of Digital Economy. Thank you very much for joining us, Doctor, again.
Most welcome.
Now, as we've seen in the report, the summit that President Sisi has attended via video conference between the African Union and the regional economic communities. During that summit, the President said that Egypt has been keen to forefront the African countries, transferring the technical expertise to the rest of the African country. And that is also a strategy that the President has always had since he ran office on his first time, is to go back and merge within the African continent and work together to be able to rise up with the richness of its resources and its capabilities and its young population. Let's talk more about the efforts of Egypt in this regard in specific.
Let us first have a look for the full picture of Africa. Since 57 years ago, former President Gamal Abdel Nasser and Haile Selassie announced the Organization of African Unity. At that time, they would like to help the African countries to get their liberty and freedom and use their resources to develop their countries. In 1999, former President Gaddafi announced the African Union, and 55 countries approved for that. Since that time, the AU working like the EU, and they have a lot of sub-organizations working for socio-economic activities and all these things. This is the first as a view for what is the AU. The continent of Africa is very rich. It consists of 55 countries. The GDP is around $2.5 trillion. The population is around 1.3 billion people. And the GDP rate is around 3.4%, which is high. This is before coronavirus pandemic. And Africa holds around 30% of the world's minerals reserves, and 10% from the world's oil reserves, and around 10% from the world's natural gas reserves. This is huge for the world economy.
In just one continent.
Yeah, this is in one continent. And the volume of the trade between Africa and the world is around $1 trillion. All these figures
they indicate the
show
importance
that
of this
Africa is a rich continent. Yeah. Regarding to these statistics, we're going, what's a lot of initiatives His Excellency Mr. Fattah al-Sisi pushing Africa to flourishing in economy, in telecommunication, in infrastructure, and a lot of things. He announced since a lot of time the initiatives for treating 1 million African people from virus C, HIV. This is the first one. And he sent a lot of medical aids and laboratory equipment to more than 30 countries. He's supporting the African countries for technical expertise. And even His Excellency, the Minister of Health, went to visit a lot of African countries to exchange the experts and exchange the plans, strategic plans against coronavirus. This is a lot of things.
I want to also talk to you on the international level. I mean, there have been a lot of agreements between the African countries with each other. And for a very long time, these agreements have been either on stalemate or did not fulfill the communique. And even the African Union itself as an organization had so many plans, but not really tangible things have been progressing on concrete ground. Specifically when Egypt was chairing the African Union, we've seen a lot of efforts on all levels and on all files that have achieved a lot of progression with Egypt's chairmanship. After that, how has the performance of the African Union as an umbrella from an economic level and with agreements under that performed from your own personal perspectives?
Yeah. During, as you said, during the chairing, Egypt chairing the AU, His Excellency Mr. Abdel al-Sisi, the President, did a lot of achievement. He did a lot of summits to attract the investors to invest as a foreign investors in Africa. He did the summit between Africa and China, Africa and Japan,
the European Union,
African EU, and all these things. A lot of investment, foreign investment, invest in, especially in energy and infrastructure in Africa now. This is the first time the president did something like a lot of these summits. This is new for the continent of Africa. Again, he did a lot of initiatives to help the youth in Africa. Instead of migrating to Europe and all these things, to work them and train them to work in SMEs and all these things. Egypt trained a lot of people in information technology and in communication. And again, we helped them for developing in agriculture and especially in energy. And a lot of the infrastructure, like the roads and bridges, and even for the energy establishment. And this year, Egypt building in Congo the biggest electricity dam there, and we shall be connected to the electricity network and energy network in Cairo.
That's very interesting.
This is to connect the energy to Africa continent. This is a lot of things, because you know the main problem in Africa, all these countries are isolated countries. They're working like separated islands. No infrastructure connecting them. Especially most of the products coming from Europe still now. Because no infrastructure.
That's definitely it. And as you said, I mean, it's only when you rise and develop the continent is when you be able to not just benefit others with the resources that this continent is rich in, but also benefit the nations of this continent with better economic conditions and eradicate poverty and illiteracy and resolve the health conditions. Speaking of infrastructure, Dr. Ghoneim, the World Bank specifically in its latest report on the Middle East and North Africa, which was released last week, upgraded Egypt's real GDP, gross domestic product, projection to 3.5% in 2020. In your opinion, what does this indicate on Egyptian economic performance with the continuation of the projects and the infrastructure development in light of COVID-19? With all countries around the world, and even in developed countries, we're seeing a major economic crisis going on for the past 11 months or so.
I think Egypt since 6 years, last 6 years, especially when they did the economic reform and administrative reform, now before pandemic, the average rate for GDP is around 5.6. This is very high. For the pandemic and stop all the movement and supply chains and all these things, most of the economies all over the world decreases by minus. Egypt in the first...
you're talking before the pandemic.
Yeah, before
with the pandemic it went even worse.
Yeah, before pandemic we arranged to we're going to around 5.6%. But during pandemic, most of the average for GDP for the countries going below zero. They are negative because a lot of lockdown, a lot of
and no progression or development.
No
that's how you calculate
all these things. But in Egypt, since the economic reform and financial reform, we stopped to 3% positive, and even the the rating institution and World Bank and IMF say that the economic in Egypt is positive and promising till now. Because, do you know, the economy in Egypt is different sectors. Agriculture, industry, tourism, and all these things. This is why it is not one sector. Like the Gulf area, it is only oil.
And it's diversified.
Yeah,
it's a diversified market.
Diversified. This is why we still promising as economy.
Yes. Now, not just that, but there were also plans and a vision, a very clear vision by President Assisi since he ran office, and that is going towards a sustainable development agenda of 2030. So, and that was also affirming Egypt's support for the United Nations effort in promoting the Sustainable Development Program or the efforts. And if I was to ask you about how well was that strategy planned and how progressed are we in terms of the efforts that are being exerted by the nation and its institutions to reach to the goals of this Sustainable Development Program or agenda?
Yeah, when the UN pushing all the world for the agreements for the UN Sustainable Development Plans 2030, it contains 17 goals. These 17 goals contains of 169 KPIs. All these KPIs, most of them concerning the education, the medicine, the infrastructure, the technology, and all these things. How you apply them? The first of them to fighting poverty.
Exactly.
Yeah, how to fighting poverty?
Exactly.
You must supply all these people and you change them from unemployment to employment. Yeah, to helping them for social activities and social aids and social security plans. And again, for educating them to find a chance to have a job.
And what about supporting the small and medium enterprises and how that has been also a successful program in eradicating either underemployment or unemployment by supporting and encouraging young youth to start and kick off with their own businesses that supports the Egyptian economy? Yeah,
do you know Egypt have a lot of plans, government plans for the mega projects. All the mega projects now, around 5 billion employer working in these mega projects like the infrastructure, the energy plans and the bridges and all this and the agriculture. And again, they helping the startups and SMEs by helping them and loaning them through the central bank and through the other government institutions. And I think they put a lot of regulations and laws for supporting them and giving them strategies and giving them studies and follow up them.
As you've said, not just the projects, but to better the economy, but also the quality of business and investments has also improved up to the standards. And from here, where do you see Egypt in the next couple of years with all these exerted efforts? And could it possibly be that very soon Egypt will be one of the top strongest economies in the world? And how will that reflect on Egypt, and with regard to the Egyptian foreign policy, how will that differ as well or make any difference in the current situation or condition?
Yeah, as you said, the diversity of the Egyptian economy absorb a lot of things, and a lot of foreign investing in Egypt, especially for the energy plans and in agriculture and in industry and SMEs. This is the first thing. And in technology now, do you know the Suez Canal zone, free zone? All the cables coming from Asia to Europe, transferring all the data and the internet, moving from there. We're building a lot of data centers there and a lot of industrial
I believe, if I'm correct, India is pioneering in the field of technology.
India began before Egypt in this area. Yeah, but now Egypt moving
very
towards technology.
Pardon me for interrupting you there, but speaking of technology and Digital Egypt initiative in specific, and that was again discussed recently with the president and the ministers about the immediate start, where the president demanded an immediate start of the Digital Egypt initiative. Tell us more about the Digital Egypt initiative and how is that going to be able to make things much more faster, better and efficient, coping with the with the world today, which is all about digital technology anyway.
The Digital Egypt initiatives to supporting the people by offering them around 55 digital services now available. By the end of this year, it shall be around 72 services, digital services, offering through mobile apps or through laptop or through point of sale and all these things. But by the end of next 3 years, we shall offer through this platform around 550 government services as a digital service.
So that's an increase of what percent? Because I'm very bad with math.
Yeah.
In 3 years, an increase of what
in
percentage?
3 years. But anyway, the government pushing now the infrastructure for development. They put on this year around 11.7 billion Egyptian pound to develop the infrastructure, and they announced that a lot of digital transformation plans in the government sector and in private sector.
Yes,
now
definitely.
they are contributing the economy and the easing to offering the services to the citizen.
Yes, we're going to talk more about the digital transformation and the use of technology in Egypt. When did it start and how far have we reached, and what are the plans that are expected ahead to take place, whether it's on an institutional level or as a governmental strategy, but right after this short break. Welcome back again. You're still watching us here on The Daily Debate. I'm still joined in the studio with Dr. Abdel Ghoneim, the Vice Chairman of the Arab Federation of Digital Economy. Right before we went out to this short break, Dr. Ghoneim, we were talking about the digital transformation here in Egypt, and I think that from a cultural perspective, a lot of people were very resistant to this change and going digital, and specifically in the governmental institutions. Today we see a lot of governmental institutions going digital 100%. We're also seeing people relying more on the digital activity towards their services that is being provided for them digitally than before. So how has that changed? Or what has it added to the economy of Egypt?
Yeah, the digital economy now, it is a new phenomenon worldwide. Last year, the world spent around $1,180 billion in the projects of the infrastructure and applications for the digital transformation. This is a huge budget. Yeah, because why? There is a lot of tools now helping to going digital. Since 10 years or 15 years, you cannot go into digital transformation. Now, as some statistics, number of people in the world is around 7.8 billion people. They're using around 9 billion mobile and 5 billion.
I'm very impressed with the numbers. You're very accurate with it. I mean, I hope they're accurate figures, though, Dr. Abdel Ghoneim.
9 billion mobile. This is a tool to communicating between them, and they have around 5 billion IP address internet connectivity, and the 4 billion.
So we're not a poor country as people believe we are. We do depend on the use of technology and internet for our daily lives.
This is a tools helping the governments and the international companies and the companies
to work
and to apply.
And that was proven very successful during the COVID-19 pandemic, when people started switching online, whether it's in terms of education or jobs and employees working from home. And maybe that was one of the positive reasons why there wasn't a lockdown, because you had the possibility and the capability to actually work from home via the use of technology.
This is the main tools. Even around the world, more than 10,000 and more satellites for communications and the internet, and a lot of marine cables connecting the countries and transferring the data and the internet. This is, if you have these tools, you can easily planning and to apply the digital transformation strategy. This is for the worldwide. But even from country to country, the infrastructure inside the country needs something like 300 to 400 billion pounds. This is a huge amount.
And for what to be allocated for what exactly concerning digital?
The infrastructure. You must.
What do you mean by infrastructure?
You must connect. Even in Egypt, you have around 32,000 government buildings. You must connecting all these buildings by fiber optics cables.
And that's what's happening at the smart capital, at the new administrative capital.
How you moving the data and transferring the data from building to building. You must connecting them by fiber optics cables. This needs time, needs a lot of money, needs expertise. And even that, when you're connecting all these things, you have a lot of back office working, connecting all the databases and data cleansing all the old data and doing integration bypass for this data to be integration. And even that, you're building a lot of layers for security for the data and encrypting the data.
Encrypting the data, yes, definitely, to ensure its privacy and security.
Yeah, for privacy and protecting them from cyber crimes. And for all these things, you must have a lot of applications like mobile applications, different mobile applications from ministry to ministry or from ministry to another organization.
Maybe let's talk more about the artificial intelligence again. And President Sisi had urged the fund to contribute more in localizing the artificial intelligence, the communication, education, transport, and even the logistics services. So it's not just, it doesn't all fall just under digital technology or transformation. It has other criteria that should be invested. Why is artificial intelligence, for instance, very important at this stage here in Egypt?
Since 7 years, the fourth industrial revolution changing the world. Now, this year, there is around 31 billion IP addresses all over the world. If you say 31 IP addresses all over the world, 5 billion from them working for the people. And 26 billion for the machines, for the cameras controlling the smart cities, for the cameras and the sensors and all these things for the other equipment. Because the equipment now connecting through IP address to the people and machine learning. This is what all these applications controlled with artificial intelligence. For near future, all the cars shall be self-driving cars without any driver. How it comes? Because the Internet of Things controlling the machines, the intelligent transportation systems, controlling the roads, controlling the cars through sensors. And all these sensors transmitting
I think they already have this in Dubai, I believe. They have this self-driving transportation.
I used one of them since
was it interesting?
More than a couple of years.
Was it interesting? You were not scared. I mean, a human being by nature usually would feel safe if, if you're on a flight, for instance, and you know that there's this option of autopilot, you would still feel very nervous when you know that a human being is not sitting on the machine, fearing that something might go wrong or this machine might not understand where it's going.
The same in the plane.
That's exactly what I was talking about, the autopilot in planes.
But it is controlled better than the human behavior. Because the sensors controlling.
Well, that's a very scary statement to say, Dr. Abdel Wahab. It controlled better than human behavior. So are we expecting the whole world to go robotized in the next 30, 40, 50 years? And finding a human being who would actually talk as a human being is going to be very difficult.
As we said before,
robots will be, invading all jobs and everything.
Since 1 month, there is experiment to put planet in the head of the people, to controlling their medicine, controlling their behavior. This is
science fiction. This is science fiction Hollywood. This is science fiction Hollywood. No one's going to accept that.
A lot of applications now helping the people for a lot lot of things, especially in education, especially in analyzing a lot of data.
That's the thing. Well, let's hope, because you said it here when you said helping the people. Let's hope that the technology, digitalization, and artificial intelligence is indeed going to be helping the people and not harming the people on the long run.
If you use it right, it's helping.
If we use it right. When there's an if, there's always a controversy on what is right and what from your perspective or the other side's perspective. Unfortunately, our time is up. Dr. Abdel Ghoneim, the Vice Chairman of the Arab Federation of Digital Economy. Thank you for joining me on the Daily Debate.
Thanks a lot.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Yasmin Bakir signing off.